Selecting an insurance provider for your business is a big decision.
We know how important your company is to the community.
Alford & Associates can manage your insurance. It's our job.
Alford & Associates, benefiting your employees and protecting your business.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Louisiana and Beyond.
And in this week's program, we begin a 2-episode exploration of Louisiana's Coastal Protection and Restoration Authority, more commonly known as CPRA.
And in the program tonight, we will hear from Michael Hare, Tony Alford, Gordy Dove, and Stevie Smith.
In addition, we'll learn more from Colonel Scotty Autin, Corey Keefe, Senator Mike Fazee, Mark Prejean, and Nick Matherd.
And our guest segment this week spotlights Lee Buziga and the port operations of Edison Schwest Offshore.
That's all coming up on Louisiana and Beyond.
Louisiana and Beyond is brought to you in part by Edison Schwest Offshore, Bollinger Shipyards, Crosby Tugs LLC, Grand Isle Shipyard, Nichols State University, and Sea Level Construction.
Edison Schwest Offshore is more than a fleet. We're an interconnected network of vessels, logistics hubs, and a fast-growing workforce of over 19,000 dedicated professionals across the globe. From the United States to Brazil and the Middle East to Southeast Asia, Schwest provides cutting-edge solutions to a worldwide community. And in the face of evolving demands across the industry, we are committed to operating as the best in the world.
When it comes to marine towing, Crosby Tugs has over 40 years of experience. We have the know-how to safely assist ships into and out of their berths, escort oil tankers quickly and safely, tow ships, respond to fuel spills, and work in extreme conditions. Founded in 1977 by Vinton and Kurt Crosby, we are one of the largest privately owned marine transportation businesses in the industry. If it's on the water, let Crosby be your transporter.
At GIS, putting people first has always been our thing. As we always say, our people are our most important assets. With over 20 office locations, we deliver innovative solutions across 4 key markets: energy, industrial, infrastructure, and power. Our 4 main service groups house over 20 service capabilities, supporting projects from start to finish. We're proud of our legacy and even more excited about what's ahead.
Welcome to Bollinger Shipyards. For nearly a century, our family of skilled shipbuilders has driven innovation and excellence, creating some of the world's most advanced vessels. Today, we are at the forefront of our industry and redefining the future of naval warfare. At Bollinger, we turn challenges into opportunities and careers into legacies. Here, you're part of something bigger. Any yard can build a ship. We don't just build ships. Together, we're building the future.
In a world where you can choose to be anything, who do you choose to be? At Nichols State University, with over 70 distinct degree programs, we believe our students can be anything. Be an artist, a chef, a journalist, an educator, a lifesaver. But no matter what you choose to be a colonel. Be more at Nichols State University.
Welcome back to Louisiana and Beyond. In this week's look at CPRA.
Just over 20 years ago, one catastrophic event forced the state to completely restructure its coastal activities. And from there, Michael Hare explains CPRA's origins.
After Hurricane Katrina, I think the federal government made it very clear to the state of Louisiana they want a single point of contact when we start working on protection for our citizens, as well as the comprehensive restoration that was necessary. So the governor at the time, along with our legislative leaders, came together to piece CPRA together out of state DOTD and Department of Natural Resources, and pulling what was fragmented focus on the coast into a single point of contact with a dedicated state agency sitting under the governor's office to really be that primary point of contact with our federal delegation and our federal agencies.
CPRA was formed. We all participated in the CPRA being formed. It was the directive of the feds to form that Coastal Protection Restoration Authority and make it up of certain members, right? Parish president, state reps, senators, levee board people, so that when the money came into the state for Katrina, that it went to the appropriate places and they felt comfortable with that. So that's why I'm always at these meetings with the Corps saying, God, you guys directed us to do this. How many lines of red tape do we need, right? And so the CPRA has become a great situation for the coast. And, you know, Gordy is the chairman of the CPRA. I'm the chairman of the advisory committee. I took King Milling's position. And so I'm in the governor's ear about maybe we should do this or do that. And Gordy's really running the whole show as chairman of the CPRA. But being a chairman of the advisory puts me on the CPRA right next to it. And so it's really been a thrill, and it's been exciting to be able to be on the front row and making a lot of these things take place. But again, we got to continue. We can't drop the ball, right?
Well, first it started with a lot of people wanting me to do it. I was getting out of 12 years as a legislature, 8 years as a parish president, and you know, in 8 of my 12 years, I was chairman. So it's a lot more work when you're chairman of a committee. And then next thing you know, everyone starts calling the governor and recommending me, and so you know, the governor calls me and we go sit down, and we sat down 5 times. In fact, yeah, you know, at the same time, he put Tony Alford as the chair, King Milling's old place, the chairman of the advisory committee, which is right next to the governor. And of course, I'm part of the cabinet. And it was an honor that the governor thought enough of me, because there was a lot. I think there was quite a few people wanting that position. And you know, Garrett Graves had it, and you know, it's all the implementation of every project in Louisiana goes through me and my board, and we have oversight to make sure it's implemented through the CPRA. So we have oversight of the CPRA, which employs about 350 people, and they do a wonderful job, you know, and they do what they're directed to do by the board.
And the CPRA board just recently passed its 2027 annual plan with a $1.54 billion budget.
And prior to Katrina and CPRA's formation, Stevie Smith recalls how the state's coastal program was structured.
So the evolution of the coastal program within the state has changed, and that's just another example of it. So prior to CPRA, if you go back long enough, you did a lot of work with the State Department of Natural Resources. They had a coastal restoration division. You did a lot of work with the State Department of Transportation and Development, who had basically a flood control group that was dealing with flooding issues and all that stuff. And that's, you know, our hurricane protection stuff tended to go through Louisiana DOTD. The coastal restoration work tended to go through DNR, through the Coastal Restoration Division. So creating this agency that kind of was involved with both of those really has been a benefit. And, you know, Reggie Dupre and Gordy Dove very much involved in the creation of CPRA at the time, right? So I think it's, again, another example of our evolution. And I think it's yielded tremendous benefits. I mean, look, when you have the BP spill years ago, and you have these tremendous financial settlements, you have a state agency that can act as the lead for this activity, which has been a benefit in that program. I think it's been good. I think particularly in southeast Louisiana and for Lafourche and Terrebonne Parish, we've had an outsized role in the CPRA since its inception, and I think that's been very beneficial for our part of the world. I mean, you know, if you go to the other parts of the state, you know, they want to know how we did it and why we did it, and you know, that's part of it.
There is no daylight between the Corps and CPRA. We are side by side. I've had a great opportunity to sit down with Chairman Dove and Director Hare multiple times. One of the most recent situations of that was we walked through their coastal master plan. And so Louisiana's coastal master plan, the chance to get down and align priorities and align initiatives in accordance with where the state wants to go for that plan in and of itself. And there's a lot of goodness in being able to align those priorities to get after what the state wants. It also allowed us to do a gap analysis and see where the state couldn't be. There's only so much capability and resources, and so we could direct resources where the state felt like we could have a stronger hand over where they may not be able to. And I'll say that in the northern portion of our AO, we have the same relationship with DOTD, and that's a primary state partner as it relates to navigation canals, as well as some of our northern AO ecosystem restorations.
And we will learn more about CPRA from Michael Hare and others coming up later in this program.
And after the break, Lee Buziga is the third of 4 generations of his family working for Schwest, and he'll update us on Schwest port operations.
Sea Level Construction is a heavy civil contractor that provides turnkey services for the industrial and marine industries. From building large-scale infrastructure to installing the foundation for expansion projects, Sea Level and its family of companies offer a wide range of capabilities including driven piles, drilled deep foundations, structural fabrication, structural concrete, marine construction, barge maintenance and repair, site work development, heavy equipment repair services, and electrical services. Call Sea Level Construction to set the foundations for your next big project.
At GIS, putting people first has always been our thing. As we always say, our people are our most important assets. With over 20 office locations, we deliver innovative solutions across 4 key markets: energy, industrial, infrastructure, and power. Our 4 main service groups house over 20 service capabilities, supporting projects from start to finish. We're proud of our legacy and even more excited about what's ahead.
Welcome to Bollinger Shipyards. For nearly a century, our family of skilled shipbuilders has driven innovation and excellence, creating some of the world's most advanced vessels. Today, we are at the forefront of our industry and redefining the future of naval warfare. At Bollinger, we turn challenges into opportunities and careers into legacies. Here, you're part of something bigger. Any yard can build a ship. We don't just build ships. Together, we're building the future.
When it comes to marine towing, Crosby Tugs has over 40 years of experience. We have the know-how to safely assist ships into and out of their berths, escort oil tankers quickly and safely, tow ships, respond to fuel spills, and work in extreme conditions. Founded in 1977 by Vinton and Kurt Crosby, we are one of the largest privately owned marine transportation businesses in the industry. If it's on the water, let Crosby be your transporter.
Edison Schwest Offshore is more than a fleet. We're an interconnected network of vessels, logistics hubs, and a fast-growing workforce of over 19,000 dedicated professionals across the globe. From the United States to Brazil and the Middle East to Southeast Asia, Schwest provides cutting-edge solutions to a worldwide community. And in the face of evolving demands across the industry, we are committed to operating as the best in the world.
Welcome back. Tonight in our guest segment, we are pleased to present Lee Buziga, Edison Schwest Vice President of U.S. Port Operations.
And Lee describes how the company, already successful in vessel operations and shipbuilding, entered the port industry.
It started in late 90s. Our first facility was built in 1997. It began operations in 1997. And it was built to support our vessels that were working in Pusha. You know, our vessels would go into port, going to numerous different facilities around Pusha, trying to pick up cargo supplies, you know, get fuel in one place, supplies at another. Where do we park our boats to fix them when we need to repair them, get people in to repair them as well. So it was was originally designed to support our vessels that were operating in Port Fourchon at the time. And in addition to, the major operators like Shell, BP, Chevron, those operators weren't in Fourchon at that time in the late 90s, So it was an opportunity to bring some of that work back into the port, into this area. And from that time, it just continued to grow into what it is today. It's because it's centrally located along the Gulf Coast region and to where the offshore drilling blocks or offshore drilling blocks for major operators or all operators in the Gulf of Mexico, actually. So you can, out of Fourchon being as centralized as it is, they can operate properties in the Eastern Gulf, the Central Gulf, or the Western Gulf easily out of Port Fourchon. We have all of the services there that are required to support offshore drilling and production operations. Everyone, in addition to Schwest, has made a lot of investments there where we can support the whole supply chain in that area. So it came about by wanting to be a one-stop shop for all of our customer bases that were working in Fourchon. Prior to the development of Seaport, vessels would go to 6, 7 different docks potentially, go to one dock get fuel, one dock get supplies, one dock get mud, one dock get cement, dry bulk. The concept of Seaport was to put all of that into one facility. The way we lease property in Fourchon by waterfront, you pay per linear foot of waterfront. Our ownership had the idea of digging slips and then putting a cover over them where we can get 9 vessels into a facility, and we only need, per se, 1,000 feet of dock versus having to lease 3,000 feet of dock to get 9 boats in. The idea of that was to put a cover over it as well. Keeps our people, our assets out of the direct sunlight in the heat of the summer down here. Things get hot, and the elements in the rainy season, we can continue to operate 24/7, 7 days a week. So the concept was all about vessel turnaround time and the exposure of our personnel working in order to get 100% efficiency out of them guys. They're not in the direct sunlight all the time. And then the safety aspect of it as well, using overhead cranes. Our crane operators have a bird's eye view of the entire deck of the vessel that they're loading. They can see all of the personnel that are involved in that loadout. When you're trying to use outside docks, which we can consider a more traditional style dock, they're running mobile cranes on those docks there. Sometimes it's strictly radio communication, hand communication, trying to give signals to vessels, to personnel on board or on the dock side when you're trying to load equipment. In the slips, you have overhead view of everything there. You still have radio communication and things like that, but that operator could actually see everything that he's doing in front of him, which makes the process more efficient and safer. It's all about turnaround time, right? So when you got a vessel in port, that means he's not offshore feeding the drilling rig that he's supposed to be feeding or that he's actually chartered to feed, right? Like on charter to feed and to support. So vessel turnaround time prior to the invention of Seaport, like I said, vessels went down for 4 or 5 days at a time. Once Seaport was created, we were able to turn around vessels within sometimes 24 to 36, 48 hours. That we would turn around vessels with the same amount of equipment they would do prior. So getting that vessel back offshore in a timely and efficient manner is very important to the oil and gas operators. Once we built Seaport, we had 3 slips built, filled those 3, built another 3, filled those, 3 more there, 9 total filled. By the time we built 9 of them, we were already having to build Seaport 2 to get started there because of the need of the facilities, and the want of customers getting in there. So I used to work in the summers during high school and college on the dock facilities, working under my father, But I think the thing that I'm most proud of that we've been able to bring as an organization is the stability to our community, the opportunity to have jobs that are local to our region, right? Like I never take for granted every day that I can drive 23 miles and go to work. I had people that go to work all around the world, got to travel thousands of miles to go to work. We have what we've built down there has given people in our local community and even expanding outside our region, right, an opportunity to work on land and make a decent quality, have a good quality of living, good wages, and the stability of the work that's down there. You know, it's going to be here into the future. I'm a fourth generation, employee. My grandfather started with the company when he was almost employee number one, right? Or two or three. But my son's now working with the company in operations. So, I guess I'm most proud of the opportunity of what we've all built down there. Continues to allow our families in this local region to be able to have access to employment and jobs that, quite frankly, are hard to find around the rest of the world.
And we will have more about Edison Schwest and their worldwide port and logistics operations in a later episode.
And after the break, more about the creation and responsibilities of CPRA. Stay with us here on Louisiana Beyond.
Edison Schwest Offshore is more than a fleet. We're an interconnected network of vessels, logistics hubs, and a fast-growing workforce of over 19,000 dedicated professionals across the globe. From the United States to Brazil and the Middle East to Southeast Asia, Schwest provides cutting-edge solutions to a worldwide community. And in the face of evolving demands across the industry, we are committed to operating as the best in the world.
At GIS, putting people first has always been our thing. As we always say, our people are our most important assets. With over 20 office locations, we deliver innovative solutions across 4 key markets: energy, industrial, infrastructure, and power. Our 4 main service groups house over 20 service capabilities, supporting projects from start to finish. We're proud of our legacy and even more excited about what's ahead.
Welcome to Bollinger Shipyards. For nearly a century, our family of skilled shipbuilders has driven innovation and excellence, creating some of the world's most advanced vessels. Today, we are at the forefront of our industry and redefining the future of naval warfare. At Bollinger, we turn challenges into opportunities and careers into legacies. Here, you're part of something bigger. Any yard can build a ship. We don't just build ships. Together, we're building the future.
When it comes to marine towing, Crosby Tugs has over 40 years of experience. We have the know-how to safely assist ships into and out of their berths, escort oil tankers quickly and safely, tow ships, respond to fuel spills, and work in extreme conditions. Founded in 1977 by Vinton and Kurt Crosby, we are one of the largest privately owned marine transportation businesses in the industry. If it's on the water, let Crosby be your transporter.
Sea-Level Construction is a heavy civil contractor that provides turnkey services for the industrial and marine industries. From building large-scale infrastructure to installing the foundation for expansion projects, Sea-Level and its family of companies offer a wide range of capabilities including driven piles, drilled deep foundations, structural fabrication, structural concrete, marine construction, barge maintenance and repair, site work development, heavy equipment repair services, and electrical services. Call Sea-Level Construction to set the foundations for your next big project.
In this week's episode, we continue our look at Louisiana's Coastal Protection and Restoration Authority.
And Michael Hare reviews his career path before assuming the post last year as CPRA's executive director.
I think we all have an interesting journey in life. So for me, I really started my career in Washington, D.C., working for the federal delegation in early 2005. I joined Congressman Charles Bustany from Southwest Louisiana just after he got elected. And so my first time in Congress was really right after Hurricanes Katrina and Rita and seeing that devastation along our coast. I lived in D.C. for about 10 years in total, came back to Louisiana, continued to work for the delegation, and then in 2017, I went into the private sector to work for a very large national restoration company working all across the Gulf Coast and the East Coast. So a combination of federal policy background and about 8.5 years of real business experience in environmental markets. I think that provides a unique skill set for me to help CPRA right now.
Well, the way I see it is this way. When I first got on the levee district over here, I really didn't even understand how CPRA worked, you know, and I think Garrett Greaves was actually was the chairman then. It was a little bit different kind of person. Then Jerome Zoran came in, changed again. Chip Klein came in, changed again. Johnny Bradbury came in, changed again. Chip came back and changed again. You know, all these things happened. You know, Glenn came in, now we got Michael. And the difference I see now is when I first got on this levy board, there was not all of us had the same level of knowledge about all of this, but they've been very responsive. We really haven't had a bad director of CPRA or chairman or whatever the title is of the person that does that, because it's changed over the last couple of years. But the point is that at the beginning, probably I'd want to say it was more important that we had people like Garrett and Jerome and Chip and all in there. And now we have these new younger guys coming in, and to be frank with you, they want to know what we think, because they know that that's where the encyclopedia of knowledge is. And so it's changed a bit, but they're good too, you know. And so, you know, they got to acclimate just like everything else, and they got to learn too. And as things go along, they get better at what they do. And we've just had a real good relationship with CPRA through the years. All of us, really, all of us. Everybody in the coastal zone has had a pretty good relationship with CPRA. It's important because we can get, I guess I'll back up a minute. The most important thing I think about is when we're spending money to fix something, is getting every % of that we can to construction or whatever we're trying to prove. So CPRA controls those dollars. It sets up those plans. I think they're known for 95 cents of every dollar going to construction rather than overhead and engineering and all that. So they're doing one heck of a job in making sure every tax dollar is being put to good use by building whatever project they decide to do. The biggest thing is now is the decisions on what projects do we do, and it's the ones that you got to pick out that's most important, and to make sure everything's kind of continuous, that we don't do some project that's not going to help anything for the next 10 years. We want to do projects that's going to keep moving everything forward as the protection is put in place.
Far too often we feel like, you know, we've been reactive in a lot of cases in our coastal protection and those type of things. You know, and we've been able to come up with billions of dollars after the fact, right? Here, you know, working with the state, the federal government, CPRA, you know, we're pushing a lot more proactivity into it, where we can do this stuff like you mentioned now versus, you know, 30 more years down the road after we've had another 10 or 12 storms. And, you know, by making our coastline more resilient, I think that'll help us in other areas, such as increasing insurance rates and all of those things that make it tough for people to move down to this area and be able to afford it, right? So I think by doing this stuff now, it's helping us set up for a more sustainable future.
I think a lot of people mistakenly think that coastal restoration and flood protection are naturally at odds with each other, but I kind of think of them as two different languages trying to tell the same story, that we have one big community, we have one big ecosystem that we're trying to protect, whether it's protect marsh or protect homes. And so when we have an agency on the state level like the Coastal Protection and Restoration Authority that makes it their entire mission to make sure that these two goals and visions for the people of Louisiana are aligned as well as they can be, we've seen nothing but increased success since 2007 when we started developing coastal master plans. When we meet with our congressional delegates, when we meet with the Army Corps of Engineers, they're an invaluable asset to have in that discussion, because it doesn't just show us in our smaller communities and what we think is important, but on a national level, having the state have your back speaks volumes. That locally, obviously, we put our own money where our mouth is, and we invest in ourselves, but having the state of Louisiana also there on the side of us saying, we also agree from the state's perspective that these projects are important, and we are going to contribute state money to these projects. It makes your platform a lot stronger, and it makes those conversations a lot more productive.
And join us again next week as we continue our look at CPRA, its board composition, its budget, in some of its major statewide projects.
And we thank you for joining us this week and hope to see you next week right here on Louisiana and Beyond.
Louisiana and Beyond has been brought to you in part by Edison Schwest Offshore, Bollinger Shipyards, Crosby Tugs LLC, Grand Isle Shipyard, Nicholls State University, and Sea Level Construction.